Hey everyone, Jason here from your favorite Fakakta Comedy Funhouse programs. If you're enjoying this show, I have a feeling you're also going to enjoy the podcast Couch Pilots. Myself and the podcasting god, Blake Clayton, take a break from the grind and sit down on our favorite Davenport every week to watch and discuss some of the most odd and misunderstood television pilots of the past. There is such a treasure trove of bizarre viewing out there, and we're just the jerks to dig them up and make a show about it. Watch along with us and join in the conversation. Find us at fcfnetwork.com or rate the show and subscribe in iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Thanks for listening and enjoy the rest of the show.
What's up, Metal Hand of God fans? This is Adam. So this episode's a little bit different. Wayne, Kyle, and Rum are all out of town. Well, Rum's always out of town because he's in a different town than us. But you get what I'm saying. You know, he's out of his town on this particular episode. So instead, it's me and two really good friends, two people I respect a lot. Fletch Boogie of the BSI Comics podcast is sort of functioning as co-host on this episode. And Tedd Walley, creator of Mathilda, The Forces of Evil versus the Third Grade. And if you're new to the podcast or fairly new, Tedd Walley's been on a couple times. He is one of my favorite people. He is a very, very intelligent man. I quite often seek his advice and opinions on professional matters. If you haven't heard of Mathilda, please go check it out. That'll be, we'll post links in the show notes. I hope you like this episode. It's not necessarily the funniest episode, but I think you'll really enjoy the discussions that we have. It's worth mentioning that this takes place in BSI Comics itself, so occasionally you're going to hear a little bit of hubbub. You know, customers came in, they wanted to buy stuff. You know, for some reason they didn't want to just, gawk at the glory that is the Metal Hand of God podcast in action. You know, not many people get to see that, but for some reason, I don't know what these people's problem were. You know, maybe they're missing, maybe they're smoking a little bit of the wacky tobacco. I just said wacky tobacco, which makes me feel old. I don't know. Anyway, so, but the show came out pretty well. Obviously, there wasn't a whole lot of ability to edit because it was a live remote. I do want to take a second to thank the Couch Pilots, which you may have, I posted the promo that they sent us just before this, and we're actually going to be sending them a promo. So we're cross promoting. We're doing the podcasting thing. We're a community. We're people. We got to help each other out. You got to help us out. We got to help you out. All that good stuff. And also, DisAfterDark is still helping us promote, and we thank them very much. Can't wait to have Craig Lucas on. So, without further ado, here it is. Which is too good for BSI.
Yeah. Did you just change voices and go into radio mode when you hit record?
Why do I do that?
It looks like
not aware
a tape
of it.
recorder.
Yeah. Well, the
It's awesome.
iOS used to have a great voice recorder, and they got rid of it and they replaced it with GarageBand, which only records like 30 seconds or a minute and a half or something like that. I don't really understand why. And so this works really well. And yes, it has a very cool cassette visual.
It'd be cool if they had like a Transformers look on the cassette.
Might have to stick over here, Ted.
Okay.
Are we actually recording?
Yeah, why not? We're sitting around talking.
I don't know. Heads up would be great.
I literally said like two minutes ago. It was like we might as well start recording.
You got to say like we're live or don't say F.
I mean, there's no customers here right now.
Yeah, but
this isn't going to be BSI. I think the video is just going to be BSI.
oh, then what are we recording for?
For M-Hog.
Oh.
Oh, you were unaware of that part of it.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm pretty sure I told you.
I thought you meant M-Hog style, like poorly.
Oh.
I'll let you have that one.
Cold water.
I'll let you have that one. This is the M-Hog podcast, but Wayne, Kyle, and Rum are not here. They're all off on, I don't know, some sort of...
Masturbation
They're
tours.
masturbating.
Yeah,
Masturbating.
that sounds like something Rum would do. Masturbation. But, yeah, so Kyle, it's actually Kyle's birthday, and it's also Fletch Boogie's birthday.
No way.
It's not.
You're this many. And it's an audio podcast, so no one got that joke because I just did the hands. But, you know, this is why we're the most hated podcast in New Orleans.
It's not my birthday, though. You know that.
It's not?
No.
You told me the 13th.
14th.
You said Sunday.
I didn't.
You absolutely said Sunday.
Are you trying to tell me I lied to you about when my birthday was?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe you thought Sunday was the 14th.
Maybe I was confused about the day I was born. You got me.
Yeah, you were a little young. You don't remember it.
Well, you look confused with that shirt on. So we have Fletch Boogie, who's apparently it's not his birthday,
So
and we
take
have
those birthday wishes back.
yeah.
But,
In fact,
happy
give me
birthday,
back your
Kyle.
present.
It's tomorrow.
And we have the one and only Tedd Walley.
Happy birthday, Kyle. Happy birthday to Fletch tomorrow.
And so we're going to talk to Ted a little bit, but you finally got your full volume of Mathilda out on stands.
Yeah, that has been affectionately referred to as the director's cut or the creator's cut of the original issues.
It's right on the shelf over there.
Yeah, there's still plenty of copies.
If you're in the New Orleans area, over at BSI Comics, and you have a few other stores that have it too, don't you?
BSI carries it. More Fun Comics carries it. Crescent City hasn't carried it yet, but that's simply because I just haven't talked to the guys there yet. But I'm
Do
sure
you have
they'll
it digital?
You can get it on Comixology, actually. You can get it on Amazon Kindle.
Buy it in print.
Buy it in print.
I'm saying for people, because this is M-Hog, so...
We ship. Buy it in print.
Okay, call BSI Comics. Fletch Boogie would be happy to ship.
No, seriously. People, matter of fact, Doug Raymond came up the other night and asked where he could get a copy of it. He wanted to buy a copy from me. And even though I make more if you buy it directly from me, buy it from the shops. Because, it's just, they have it in the shop, and I like them to think that they made a wise choice in carrying it. So buy from the shop if you can.
Right on. So, you haven't been on since, I think, like the 100th episode.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, actually, I think that was the last time I was on.
That was a weird episode.
That was a hysterical episode.
There we had, like, I want to say 12 people on, including Vernon, who kept coming out.
Yeah, he kept cutting in and out, which was pretty awesome.
But yeah, so why don't you tell for new listeners, tell them a little bit about Mathilda.
Mathilda? Oh, Ted.
Oh yeah. Well, go ahead. I want to hear.
Yeah, let's hear the Fletch
I want
Boogie
to hear
pitch.
I want to hear the Bible pitch from
No,
you.
I wanna
You
hear-
got it down.
Nah, yeah, I have it down, except I don't. But I want to hear your take on it, and then I'll give everybody the corrected Bible.
My super simple take.
Yeah, when people ask you, what's this about?
So she's basically a little girl that's the daughter of the devil,
Keep going. That's it.
and she has a evil teddy bear. Is it evil?
It's
Keep
a
going.
demon.
It's a demon, but is it,
I will
No,
answer all. I just want to
It's one
hear.
of the good demons. It's one of the angel demons.
Yeah, they have like the demons, but they like protect the other whatever. And she's on a quest to kill her father.
That's it. That's all
That's
you
it?
got.
That's what I got.
That's fine. No, there's no wrong answer. I just wanted to hear how you describe it, because that tells me you haven't read it. So it's okay.
I most certainly read it several times.
No, because that's nothing of what happens in the book. It's like zero of what happens in the book. No, it's basically you're close. So it's the story of the firstborn child of Lucifer. She's leader of all of his armies. She has an epiphany in terms of she realizes that she's on the wrong side. And so she sells her soul to God to get out of hell. But God assigns her the tasks of she has to learn the importance and value of the human condition. She has to stop her father from destroying all of existence, and she has to pass the 3rd grade. And she does have a little demon bear. The demon bear is not a good bear. It is a very bad demon that has attached itself to her. And it's kind of like they have this dynamic of Calvin and Hobbes, if Hobbes is trying to kill Calvin at every given opportunity. So
I was pretty sure that was the subtext of Calvin and Hobbes, actually.
Close. But no, Calvin was the wisdom and common sense. No, Hobbes was the wisdom and common sense. Calvin was the impetuousness. So Bella, the teddy bear in this, is not common sense or anything like that. Just wants to stop her and kill her.
And the demon bear is actually probably the most iconic part of Mathilda. Surprisingly, even though the book's called Mathilda,
everybody remembers the bear.
You have the panties, ladies. If you ever wanted panties,
ladies.
With Fletch Boogie, if you've ever wanted panties,
have
with a demon bear on the front.
Yeah, I think you can get the G-string panties and you could use it as like a banana hammock. I think they'd fit.
They do.
We figured you'd know.
Yeah, see, all this time I thought he'd order them for Mrs. Boogie, but apparently not. So
there's a little seepage. It looks like a satin gum sometimes.
So gross. So gross.
Well, it's funny because it's true. So,
and it's VoodooMaverick.com.
Correct.
For everything. If you're not in the New Orleans area and you can't get a hold of an actual store that sells it.
Yeah, or if you do a Google search with my name, it's the first thing that comes up.
That's Ted with 2 D's.
Correct.
For a double dose of that pimpin'.
T to the E to the double D.
But, and you also, lately you've been trying to get it, you've been pitching it to agents.
Actually, I pitched it to one agent and 2 producers now. So yeah, it's because I've been doing the indie comic thing since 2002, and I remember locally around 2002, Vernon Smith and myself and another guy were like the only guys that were doing indie comics around here. And over the course of time and just learning more about the industry, and I learned that really for any kind of money, the comics are only going to make you so much. It's actually going into media is where the future, any kind of, if I want to make a living off of this book, is where it's got to go. So a good friend of my wife, Vanessa, she works in Hollywood, and she actually did work on the last Star Trek movie, the Darkness movie?
Yeah, Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yeah, she did actually both. She worked on both of those movies, but she actually officially got credited on the second one. But she does a lot of continuity editing and stuff like that. She's done work with Nickelodeon shows, and she's the one that actually hit me up to trying to start pitching it to producers and seeing if I can't get it produced as a cartoon. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
And you actually we're all in the New Orleans Drink and Draw Society, and you share there's a form that he fills out, and the producer or agent, whoever it may be that's looking at it, sort of reviews it and says, I'm interested or I'm not interested, and why or why not. And some of them, there was one in particular that tripped me out.
They didn't even read it? Where they didn't even read it?
No, there's been a couple that
the responses aren't necessarily logical. Like, there's one, I want to say it was an agent, and that's probably why I went straight for agent, who said, man, love this book, super cool, very interesting. I don't know who's going to want to buy this, though.
Yeah, that was the agent.
And the thing that trips me out about that, it's frustrating in that, I mean, not so much for me, except that you're my friend. I guess we'll hold for a second.
Okay.
BSI Comics.
We're actually recording live in the comic book store, folks, so So we're gonna hold that thought. I know this is weird, but it's M-Hog, so
Yeah.
like that's.
And we can always edit this part out. The dead silence.
Oh no, I'm totally keeping this in because it's weird. We'll just get back to the thought.
Yeah, no, I say keep on going because it's just Fletch. He's just answering
Right.
a million
For Jason?
question of how many Deadpool comics do you guys have?
Yeah, he'll probably be busy, so I'll just finish my
Yeah,
thought.
definitely.
So it's frustrating because if the guy said, I read it, it was cool, but I just don't really get it, that I understand. But as an agent or whoever, a producer, if you tell me that really liked your work, it's really cool, it's very interesting, it's different, then you can't go and say, I don't know who's going to buy this, because if you're willing to buy it, that means obviously someone will. You can't just assume that no one else will. So all that tells me is that you're not very good at your job because you just don't know how to pitch something except that's your job.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, that kind of bouncing and talking things to Vanessa because she works in the industry has been helpful in understanding some of their responses and terminology that they're using and stuff. So, yeah, and you and I have talked about it as well, is that the reality was, in that guy's case, is that he just didn't know where to sell it because he probably didn't have the connections there to sell it. So,
Okay, well, that makes a little more sense.
No, what you're saying makes sense in terms of that's actually the correct answer he should have used. Not that he didn't know, because some of his responses were that it was really dark, and he didn't know any studios that did things that would do things like this kind of dark and blah, 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 blah. But the reality of what he was saying and reading between the lines was that he just didn't have the connections to sell it. And that's fine, just admit it. But, I had to kind of do some digging and talking to some people to figure out that that's what he was really saying without saying it. So, yeah, he should have been a little more straightforward with his answer rather than kind of blanket
because
saying
the other side of it is, like, you've often pitched it as kind of a... it's got a little bit of Hit Girl from Kick-Ass with the Mathilda character, because we've seen, not that Mathilda and Hit Girl are similar characters, but they're both small, cute children
who have
with an adult edge.
Yeah, with an adult edge. They use a variety of weapons, they kill very hyper-violently, and they have an adult language and mannerisms about them. So, yeah.
And then you have Adult Swim, which is kind of, because I believe you said that animated is where you feel like this needs to go.
Yeah, I just don't see it as live action. I mean, I just see it as, this animated black and white cartoon. And the guy that's currently looking at it now, he works for Energy Entertainment, which I haven't been able to track it how, but Energy Entertainment is somehow responsible for Deadpool and a bunch of other shows, TV shows like Bates Motel, and his response to it, which I think is probably one of the more accurate ones that I've gotten so far, and that was, he understood the comparisons that I was making, that I was drawing it to in the tagline. He understood the cartoon that it was supposed to be a cartoon. So he seems to get it so far. So I'm really kind of interested in seeing what he thinks of the pilot script. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's, Hollywood's, they call it Hollywood for a reason. It's a weird place where, so much of it is driven by, like, egos and people with short sight, depending on the era, really.
Right, yeah, and rolling it back to the whole Deadpool kind of thing was that, it's now no secret that they had it and they kept saying, or I say they, the studio had it, and they kept, their response for not moving on it was they didn't know what to do with it. And that comes from that whole concept of vision. And you just need to have that one person that not only gets the product, but is excited about the product and has the vision, and that they can either see the same vision as you and see how they can make it a reality, or they can contribute to that vision to achieve the same goal. of making it a reality. So,
and is not afraid to leak the trailer early so people can see it and be excited about it.
well, it's that whole audience testing thing. I mean, I worked 23 years in advertising and marketing, and that's what you do. That's the easiest nowadays. It's the easiest way to do a test audience poll and see what they think of it.
Well, the biggest issue with it is, like, it seems like, metaphorically speaking, it's like they're all standing around a mirage, or what they believe to be a mirage, like a little oasis.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, that's not a real oasis. That's not. And they're just waiting for one person to do it, and then one person does, and they're like, oh no, now we all need it, and the oasis becomes polluted like almost instantly, because now all of a sudden you have like Deadpool successful, so they're literally saying that the Blu-ray of Batman vs Superman will be R-rated.
I kind of view it as a lot like the scene at the bridge in the Holy Grail, where John Cleese asks the question, he gets across easy, and then all of a sudden everybody is like, oh, well, we can all answer the questions too. And I equate it to that because it really is very comical and almost sad, but very comical in terms of that kind of approach, is that, one person does it and it turns out to be easier than they thought, and then all of a sudden everybody's tripping over themselves trying to go do the same thing because they think it's going to be just as easy, and they find out, well, no, the first guy or girl that did it actually had a lot of work that they had to do to get it done, and they took the risks, and it succeeded. So of all things, I equate the success of Deadpool in terms of how studios view R-rated product is a lot like how they approached the bridge in the Holy Grail.
I don't think it was even the fact that it was rated R. It was just a very well thought out concept that was executed perfectly.
It's that combination of vision when somebody's got a really tight script, and then it's combined with people that are in positions of authority and power that they can make these things happen. They can, green light things. They can hire production companies, directors, whatever. They have the connections to do it. And it's when you have a really well written script and then it's paired up with people that can make things happen. It really is a chemistry set. It's why Deadpool is so successful. It had a really good storyline, but it was paired with production companies and directors and actors that all part of the chemical mix made it work. Conversely, on the flip side of that, the second Punisher movie with Thomas Jane, it was like it went through a studio that could put directors and put actors attached to it, but it had a really bad script and a really bad director. So, and kind of a bad cinematographer as well. So, it just, it's part of a chemistry set.
After Deadpool, I wrote a piece on BSIComics.com about, and it's not limited to Hollywood. We see this a lot with comic books, or rather the mainstream comic book industry. Like, for any creative endeavor that functions as a business, not like Mathilda where you're doing it yourself, but functions as a business, there's two elements to it. There's the creative side, and there's the financial side. And for it to really work, I feel like you need about 60% creative in charge and 40% financial. Because if you need financial to sort of ground the creative people and say, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do this, because you need someone to sort of rein them in.
Right.
You need somebody who's good with not just numbers, but with the, for lack of a better word, the scaffolding of story structure. Mm-hmm. But you do need a person who's creative, who understands, like we need to take this risk, and here's why. Because financial people do not understand risk. Financial people hate risk. And that's why you get so many movies that are all paint by numbers. All rom-coms essentially end the same. They never end with the chick going, you know what, this is a horrible relationship. We will not be together in 2 weeks. I'm going to move on with my life. You should probably do the same. Because no one wants to tell that real story,
Yeah.
How the Notebook should have ended.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I blame that
The Notebook ended in death. What's wrong with that? That's as real as it gets.
Well, I mean, I've always said that's, how the impact of Disney on popular culture is that, people grew up, they want the storybook happy ending. And enough people equate movies as escapism entertainment. So for them, that's what they want to do. They want to escape the reality that is that, no, the girl wound up going with the other guy, and because you suck. So
well, I mean that's good stuff too. It's just that like the fact that no one in Hollywood or very few people are willing to take a risk and say, well, why don't we try it this way?
Well, I equate it in terms of, because I can understand it from doing what little on the business side that I do for Mathilda, in terms of it's not that new of a model. That's a model that's been going back, to the record industry in the 50s, is that anyone that is about to spend money on an investment wants that assurance. Everybody wants that security of it. If someone says, hey, could you put $10, could you loan me $10 so that I can get my book out, on a Kickstarter or something like that, it's the expectation is before I pull out my wallet, I'm going to want some assurances that I'm going to get my return of investment. Well, multiply that $10, with about 6 more zeros behind it. That's why you see them taking the safe path and using the similar formulas, is because they want a return on their investment too. And unfortunately, some people don't take risks like that. So
what was that movie that just came out with the gods or something like that?
Gods of Egypt.
Gods of Egypt.
Basically 300.
Cookie cutter,
down to the star.
big action movie.
Yeah.
And how much did it make?
I don't know.
A couple of bucks.
Negative.
It's negative bucks. Yeah,
it didn't look good.
Money.
Like, it actually doesn't look like 300 story-wise. It's just visually and with the star. But you looked at it and you just went, okay.
It didn't excite me.
It was a massive failure. I mean, you remember what the budget was on it? Was it like a $300 million or something?
Something like that.
And it was projected open a weekend and do $17 million.
Yeah, it just didn't look like an exciting movie, And it's just that sometimes when now Lionsgate, who I think did that movie, they seem to be very much into, as far as their projects go, assessment. So they seem to assess their formulas well, and they, from all accounts that I've been reading, some of the trades that I follow, is that they didn't take that loss lightly, that they are kind of refining how they look at some of their projects and how their stories are developed. And a lot of the blowback that they were receiving in terms of that, it was set in Egypt, that there was very few leads of color, and that the story looked really awful. So, I don't know. Hopefully they take it as a lesson.
Like a 5-second controversy, which is actually, in this case, understandable, that all the leads were white in the story of Egypt, which, like, people tend to forget that there definitely were, like, not white people, but fairer-skinned people back then. But just the fact that it's a story of Egypt and Gerard Butler is the star. But
Exactly.
the hilarious part about that is no one cared about Gods of Egypt, so even that controversy lasted all of a second.
Right. If the movie was more successful, then that would have been...
I wouldn't say it's a controversy as much as just a really poor decision.
Yeah, very bad oversight. And Lionsgate even came out and owned it. Now the director is defending it vigorously, but Lionsgate is like, yeah, that's a huge oversight on their part. So that's what I'm saying in terms of, at least they, hopefully that it sends a message in terms of how they assess their
Never
properties.
do movies about Egypt.
Yeah, exactly. Don't make movies about Egypt. So, no, it just, I was watching some of the scenes of it, and I'm willing to suspend disbelief if it's a really good story. But, stuff when you have, like, the giant monster that's chasing you, and it's busting up all the scenery around you and stuff like that, you're still somehow able to run ahead of it and not get thrown away by the impact of any kind of explosion in terms of the monster going in and out of the ground.
Well, he's
just
a god.
like, yeah, well, I don't think that was the whole
Of
thing.
Egypt. It's in the title, Ted.
No, I think he was I don't think he was supposed to be one of the gods, if I remember what the story was. I don't care. I didn't go see it.
I didn't watch it. It went in and out of theaters. And there's a lot of stuff just rushing through. I actually really want to see London Has Fallen.
Oh, yeah. I know that.
People aren't really talking about it. I don't know if it's going to stay in theaters. It's the first one, Olympus Has Fallen, is just Die Hard.
Right, yeah.
It's maybe the most shameless ripoff of Die Hard you will ever see in your life. There's no pretense. It's just This is Die Hard. Watch it.
They just couldn't call it Die Hard. They just couldn't secure the rights to it.
Olympus Hard.
Exactly. So, I saw it in London. I saw the promo for it. I forgot. I think it was at Deadpool that we saw it. I was like, oh wow, it's pretty much just continuing the whole Olympus has fallen. Now it's London's falling, and they're both Die Hard.
What did y'all think about Deadpool? Just out of curiosity.
I think we were just talking about that.
Well, we were talking about it as an intellectual property and how it got made, but not our actual thoughts on the movie. I liked it. I mean, I thought I could see where they had to kind of clean it up a lot so that people would get it, but I thought it was pretty good.
A pretty near perfect, like we said before, execution of a concept.
I'm sorry, I'm going to pause you right there because you have this intellectual response, but when you got into that theater, your text to me wasn't, it's pretty well executed. Your response was, I have a huge erection right now.
Which is the same thing.
Well, I mean, if it's done right, then having a huge erection means that whatever the actions were to cause the huge erection mean they were pretty well executed.
Because let's be fair, all of us that have read Deadpool comics and like Deadpool for the character, not just because it's the cool thing to do, we were all a little worried it was going to be super hokey.
Well, yeah, but we're like that with just about anytime we hear that they're going to take a comic.
Anything we hold precious.
Exactly, and put it up there.
I can tell you this. I got sent the original script for this, which it might be very close. I didn't finish reading the script.
To a felony?
Yes. It's probably pretty close to the shooting script, just because this is a movie that kind of sat on hold for 3 years or whatever it was. But I read that opening scene with the tumbling and all that, and I remember reading it and just going, this is like a Deadpool parody. This is pretty awful. Now, again, it's probably very similar, so the execution with the actors and the people involved, it's like comedy. Like, you can take a bad joke if the right person knows how to tell it, you can make it work. For me, like, I almost feel like when people call me a hater, sometimes things like this, I'm like, maybe I am. I like the movie. I didn't think it was nearly as funny as everyone else did. There were a few moments where I did laugh out loud that I thought were hilarious. But mostly I was just like, this is pretty good.
Yeah,
it was an enjoyable movie.
That was pretty much my approach to it as well, was that, I thought it was an enjoyable movie. When it comes out, I'll buy it. And I'll watch it again. But, I laughed out loud at some of the parts, too. But overall, that's why I kind of refer to it in terms of that. Even though it had an R rating, I could totally see, though, how they cleaned up a lot with the character and the whole romantic side and anti-hero thing.
They made it into a love story.
Yeah, they totally did.
And that's one of the reasons that it worked, was like you took like a very callous, silly concept like Deadpool and you actually gave it an emotional core, which sometimes people don't understand, or comic book fans, like, well, it's not just like the comic book. It's like, well, okay, some things don't work. Like we got, Fletch and I are trying to do video content now, and we were talking about Infinity War. Wait, did we talk about that on there? No, we didn't. I'm sorry, I was talking with someone else about that. Look, I have a lot of conversations about these things with people, but my concern with
most are in your head, so
Yes, there's a lot of voices. With Infinity War, is like there's so many characters, and people are like, Guardians of the Galaxy needs to be in Infinity War 2 with the Avengers, and they can be a super Avengers, and I'm like, no, it's a movie.
Jesus.
It's a movie. That sounds horrible. Like, you can do that in a comic book, you can't do that in a movie.
Well, it's like one of the things I noticed about Deadpool was the fourth wall breaking became narrative and not him. Whereas in the books, he's like staring at the reader and he's talking. And they only made a brief kind of reference to it in the book, or rather in the movie. But in the books, they've done like some really interesting things where they show what he looks like from the other characters that are around him, and he looks like he's talking to himself because he's supposed to be insane. And so I noticed that in terms of the movie is that they cleaned up that whole fourth wall breaking that everyone talked about. That was what Deadpool was, and they turned it into narrative. It wasn't him looking at us. It wasn't Ryan Reynolds very few times looking at the camera and telling us what was going on. So that's where I was kind of coming with it in terms of that. Yeah, they really made it a lot. They cleaned it up, really put the romance element into it that people can relate to. But they also cleaned up the whole fourth wall thing, so he didn't look as crazy. He was just a funny guy.
What I'm really curious about is, like, I don't know, have y'all seen Men in Tights recently?
No. I mean, I saw a guy that he was looking for change on the corner, but he wasn't in tights.
He's got the tights on right
He had
now.
his underwear on the outside of his pants.
It's got a demon bear on it. No, I saw Men in Tights, I want to say like 3 months ago, and
Robin Hood Men in Tights? Robin Hood Men in Tights?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that movie.
Well, I saw it, I guess about 3 months ago, and I've always loved that movie, but it doesn't hold up. And the main reason it doesn't. The main reason that it doesn't hold up is because there's so many
they don't
pop
make
culture
Reebok pumps
references
anymore.
Well, they're dated pop culture references.
Yeah,
Is what they are.
and like when I'm watching Deadpool,
Spaceballs has it too, where it's just
but I think Spaceballs still has. Maybe it's just because Star Wars is so much at the forefront.
Right, but it has the same thing. Not as many as Men in Tights, but it still has the same issue in terms of a lot of the pop culture jokes are dated. Yeah, and
those of us who get them have heard them so many times.
I still laugh hysterically at Men in Tights.
I'm just saying, like, when I look at Deadpool, there are a number of sort of, like, you know, like, I love the little bit about, is it McAvoy or Stewart? But whereas, say, X-Men First Class, 20 years down the line, I think will definitely hold up, even though that's not a comedy. You know, I feel like Deadpool, it's like, why are you making, you know, that's, I just wonder,
well,
like,
that's one of the ones I think that's, because they're, I say they, in terms of Marvel and how it's approaching its properties, are throwing in stuff into their scripts that are the gimmies that are for the nerds. Like, for example, when I went to go see it, I went to go see it with my wife, and she's never read a Deadpool comic in her life. So, yeah, exactly, Mrs. Boogie. So that whole reference that you're just talking about, she totally didn't get it. I had to explain it to her. Because that reference was written for me. Mm-hmm. And we talked about this in terms of how animation goes. Like, when they started writing cartoons were meant for adults. They were meant for not for kids. They were meant for adults because they were the in-between so that you could go back out to the concession stands or whatever. But then they started writing them for kids, and so adults had to sit through these things that were written directly for an audience that was not for them. Then fast forward to about the 80s, 90s, they start writing cartoons and they start delving into 3D animation, where a lot of the jokes now are written because they know that it's the parent sitting right next to the kid, so you got to have something that keeps the parent engaged as well as the child. So I really think that they're approaching a lot of these superhero type properties with that they're going to write stuff in there that you're going to sit there as a geek that's read it and knows what they're talking about, but then you're going to have our wives who are like, what was that? What did they mean by that?
But still enjoyed the overall.
And then when I explained, but the funny thing is when I explained the joke to her, she got it. She was just like, oh, she still has not seen those X-Men movies, but she understood the joke and thought it was funny afterwards.
Because she's seen trailers where Patrick Stewart was one.
Nope, she has not seen the trailers or any of it.
Really?
Yeah, my wife, until I came along, she has not watched really any of the cartoon movies. Now Falcon is her favorite character. So, yeah, I mean, if I put in...
And the comics is horrible.
Oh, no, I love him in the comics. I wish he would go back more to his pimping background.
Yes.
So, so yeah, when I explained to her the concept of Joe...
Keep that pimp claw strong.
Hell yeah, man. So yeah, she got it afterwards, and she acknowledged. She was like, oh, yeah, that was funny. So yeah, that's what I'm saying is I think they're better with some of their subtleties into it. Whereas Men in Tights, you know, it's just they're still funny to me because I was there. But you know, my son watches it; he's not going to get a lot of the jokes either. So
yeah, I mean, obviously, I still enjoy that movie. It's just like
I don't think you can put the word timeless to it.
Right, and but of course that is the trick of comedy as opposed to something else. But
couple weeks.
So yeah, I really enjoyed Deadpool, but I guess I just sort of felt like everyone else was just like, this is so amazing, and I always feel like I'm being a downer, even though I'm not.
No, I'm right there with you because I kept saying the same thing. It's like, it's all right. tight. And they're like, really? It was amazing. It's like, well, yeah, it was cool, and I enjoyed it, and it was funny and everything like that. But that whole fourth wall thing kept sticking to me, and I understand why they did it, and I agree that that's what they had to do. But, it still just didn't get me, where I was just like jumping and screaming at the screen.
Well, we have a friend, Hannibal the Beat Animal, who hasn't been on the show in many moons, who he kept posting on Facebook going like, oh, this is the best comedy in like the last 20 years. And I'm just like, I really don't think it would even go in like my top
Deadpool?
10. Yeah. I think if I sat down, I could probably make a list of like 30 movies. In the
I
last
think my
10
favorite
years.
part about that is, like you were saying, some of my favorite properties are accessible from different angles. So you can be the complete comic book nerd, like it. You can have no knowledge of Deadpool prior, go in, enjoy it. My wife had never read a Deadpool comic, had no idea of Deadpool, and she really enjoyed it. There's a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I was pitching the Mathilda script to the first producer, that was one of her questions, was in terms, she asked, and I thought it was a solid question. She was like, I know this is based off of a comic book. Do I have to read the comic book in order to get the show? And so I told her, no. I specifically was writing it so that you could come into the show and enjoy the show, but I was also writing it for things and references in there so that people that have read the book will know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I kind of borrowed a page from how Marvel was doing it without even realizing it, in terms of just understanding that I got to appeal to two audiences here. And I think really that when you're dealing with something that has a lot of history like this, it's got to have that in there. I mean, it's kind of like watching the original Star Trek series, and when they went to the animated series, and in the animated series they were making references to stuff that had happened in the original series, or in the original series they referred to characters that were part of the Enterprise before Kirk and Spock were, that then show up in the animated series. So the nerds get all excited about that because that's written for you. That's like they're paying attention to me and they're telling me this, they're giving me this, and thank you for giving me this. But for everybody else, it's going to be like, okay, well, it's a new character that I just got to follow, and hopefully he's written well, that they're excited by it.
My little brother posted on Facebook an image of the Howard the Duck movie, which I don't know how many people realize this is the first Marvel comic book character movie.
Yep.
Or big screen anyway.
Big screen, yeah.
And he posted, and he's like,
George Lucas's first flop.
Deservedly.
It was a flop?
Yeah, it did not make money, and it was considered George Lucas's first flop.
Oh,
And
man.
I said, yeah, supposedly this guy's making a comeback. I was like, no, it's not. Disney is not releasing a Howard the Duck movie.
Howard the
Not
Duck
yet,
is
not
loved
yet.
by his target audience.
Exactly, and
Right,
it's a
but-
very niche audience, really.
A small part of that character is making fun of Donald the Duck. It's a parody. Like, not
Well,
totally, but...
No, but the other thing of it was that it was making fun of comics, too. So...
And a little bit of everything. It's socio-political.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But, one of the best classes I took in animation was this animation history course, and it talked about the legal stuff that was going on between Disney at the time and Marvel Comics in terms of how Howard the Duck looked. I remember a lot of that, and that it was finally resolved when Lucas released his film that he had to basically, hand to God, it was the shape of his head. That was the sticking point, was that he was drawn to look just like Donald the Duck, and that was what Disney's grievance was, and they settled it by the shape of his head. So that's why you see the shape of his head, the way it looks in the Howard the Duck movie, and the way it looks at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. It looks similar to that. They had to change the shape of his head so that it did not look,
That
and
just
the
makes me wanna
side of
compare
his
Donald
bill.
the Duck and like in a side-by-side
The
comparison.
2 seconds that he was in Guardians of the Galaxy was more Howard the Duck like the comics than the entire...
Entire movie
Yeah.
was. So, yeah, he
You have
didn't
a problem
jump.
with duck breasts?
Yeah, he didn't
No.
play a guitar
Duck
solo.
They're delicious.
And, yeah, that was hysterical. And I think that was one of probably the most excited things I liked about Guardians of the Galaxy.
But that
at
was
the
total
end.
fan service.
Oh, yeah, it was total.
You know,
Completely.
but yeah, my little brother was like, yeah, he's making a comeback. I'm like, no, no, that's never going to happen. There will never be
It's
another
funny,
Howard the Duck
like,
movie.
when there's an inkling of something in a movie, how the comic book people come in and are like, oh, do you have the first Howard the Duck? I'm like, why do you want that?
Yeah, because clearly you don't understand what it is.
Well,
so.
I was just on comicbookspeculator.com, and they said this is going to be the new movie. It's coming right after Black Panther, right?
Because
Hey, how's it going? People for you.
Long boxes.
Oh, yeah.
Can I purchase 2?
yeah, because I'm thinking of oh man, I can't. I'm drawing a blank on the site, but I know I hate them so much because they do all this speculative stuff.
Oh, there's so many of them.
Yeah, but there's this one, like, when the second Avengers movie came out, they did this big, huge deal where the guy that was breaking the story, they were filming him in front of Marvel's offices when they were still in New York, and he was doing this whole thing about that the second Avengers movie was going to be World War Hulk. And they were showing all this evidence that they had for it, and blah, 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 blah. Latino Review, that's who it was. I can't stand those guys. In terms of their speculative stuff, is that they throw the stuff out there, and then it turns out to be total,
Right.
hogwash.
And here's the thing, like, some of that's, like, because the way this works is there's this huge industry of people whose jobs are to blog news. But the problem is, like, somebody meets, some production assistant or the lowest bottom secretary, and somebody was walking by talking about Avengers and like, oh, what's really good? That comic World War Hulk.
Yeah, somebody just called.
And so
we might be getting those drawer boxes.
that
They lock together.
that one statement
Yeah.
gets turned into a rumor, and it's the game of what is it, whispers,
Yeah.
where it goes from person to person. And all of a sudden, now, like, Latino Review says, well, World War Hulk is a credible source.
Well, I think a lot of it is also in terms of, and I really cite a lot of it with the technology age, in terms of that someone says that this source has told them this, and this source is close to the main source of it, but they can't prove it, and they won't prove it. So it's the equivalent of clickbaitish, I guess, but that's where the safety net is that because that's how they make their money, is getting people to click on the links and stuff like that, that they can throw anything out there that has zero substance and just say a source close to me said this, and then all they got to do is shrug their shoulders and say, oh, well, the source was wrong.
You talking about Bleeding Cool?
No, I was talking about
we're talking
Latino
about
Review.
Okay.
But on the comics end, what that leads to is, like, all kinds of speculators, like, oh, I got to get a hold of those early issues of World War Hulk, which, if you're trying to get rid of issues of World War Hulk, that's awesome, but it also helps create that bubble.
Yeah, so that's why you guys are having a tear on Howard the Duck back issues, because it's going to be the next movie. Except not. It's going to be on, like, Netflix is where it's going to be.
That would probably work pretty well.
It'd be a Howard the Duck.
Like a Full House style kind of thing. that would be pretty awesome.
That would be awesome. I'd watch that.
Howard the Duck and Stephanie Stanners.
Yeah, I'd watch that. So,
Not a crossover, just a
Why not?
creative reimagining.
I'd watch that.
well,
like
yeah,
those.
Those are the years that you didn't see of Stephanie's life when she was a party girl.
she was hanging with Howard the Duck. Yeah, so no, it's and Howard the Duck isn't. That was, like you said, I think that's a 100% accurate. That was a fan service, and that was written for the fans. But it's going to suffer the same thing that all the properties are going to suffer the more complex that they get, because Deadpool and all those guys, they were born out of a writer trying to do something different, and so that's the same with Howard the Duck. Until Disney wraps their head around not only what is this about, but then, well, how can we make this a profitable enterprise? And then, no, he's just going to be referred to, and that's about it.
I really don't think we'll see him again for if ever.
Not in my lifetime. I don't think I'll ever see him again in my life.
But
I'm glad for the little bit that I got.
That
so.
ended up with I think it's doing pretty well. The Howard the Duck comic by Chip Zdarsky.
Yeah.
That's what resulted from it. Was like one, James Gunn was like, I want to put this character in there, and on the comic side, you benefit.
Right, and the other side is, that's what you get when you have someone that understands, the vision. And, James Gunn, understands. He understands comics. He's a fan of comics, and so he could get that reference. Whereas most of them, you see, they say, "Oh, I'm a fan of comics," but they're not. They read them, but they're not a nerd about it. And James Gunn is, so he knew that would be the cool thing to do. So, and it would make sense.
How you doing today?
Good.
We're recording a podcast live in store.
He sent you the voicemail.
Actually, it stopped recording. I just had to hit record again.
Right.
Probably not.
I got a phone call because we're recording on my phone.
Predator did it.
Predator.
Oh no, I can almost guarantee it's not important. we have customers present, so I don't want us to speculate on what it probably is about.
The best part is yesterday we had that how to draw Transformers class.
Oh.
With Nutso. And he had to turn off his iMessage.
So Jason, his wife took his computer, so we needed my computer to do the streaming. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, this could end really horribly. This could end with small children scarred for life. So I had to figure out how to turn off. Thank you. I had to figure out how to turn off iMessage so that I wouldn't get a photo of genitalia.
You're both former students.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
They bought they were one that came in and they were like, "This is Mr. Wally's book." I'm like, who the f is Mr. Wally?
Who the fuck is Mr. Wally? Yeah, I get that a lot. So, I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Also
So,
from your wife.
yeah, my wife.
When you
calls me
unlock
Mr.
your phone
Wally a
and
lot,
Dusty
so.
Rhodes theme song is on.
No,
Nice.
but it was pretty fun. I like it.
Sorry.
It was pretty funny. We had to turn off iMessage, and then he and I, as Robbie's teaching the class, are texting each other horrible pictures of Transformers and various
Fallacies.
sex acts. And I was, part of me, I don't know why I didn't register. Part of me was thinking like, I really hope iMessage off, and I really hope iMessage off. And I was like, oh yeah, it clearly isn't because I haven't seen a giant robot penis on screen.
Well, I kept trying to zing him with it. Man, I hope Robbie's going to show us how to draw, like, what was it, Acid Storm or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, we brought it up.
we brought it up. We got it.
We brought it up.
He doesn't get it.
No, he doesn't get it. That's okay.
It's funny though, like one call from Laddie, and all of a sudden Imhog goes from like this is like serious discussion about art, and all of a sudden it's like robot penis.
Well, that's how you guys roll.
He's a jet, just like Starscream, but he's green. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna do it in black and white.
I hate to say that. That's a left-handed artist thinking. So, it's their adorable little mistakes. God bless them for trying to be like us normal right-handed people.
Wait, is Laddie God's adorable?
Well, Laddie in general is one of God's little mistakes, but he was born in a world that he didn't create, so he created his own world. So yeah, it's I think they're going good in terms of as far as being able to handle. I think if anything, on the surface it looks like the Deadpool and stuff like that is like greenlit R movies, but as a lot of people were pointing out, the Blade movies were that was Marvel's first R-rated movies, and they did well. So I think it's just showing, if anything, that there's going to be some people that approach these properties, but there's got to be something that they can not only understand because they're not fans of it, so they're not going to get a lot of the inside of what makes that property so popular. But there's the other side that they got to be able to make money off of it.
Right.
And as a business guy, I'll be the first to say that's usually a driving force for me. It's why I did Wizard World was because David Art said we'd like to have you at our table. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it because I knew I wasn't going to make any money out.
You had
Oh, you go to Wizard World?
Not anymore.
What about the other conventions out here, like MechaCon?
No, MechaCon was a piece of shit.
Really? Oh, what was wrong?
Well, I didn't make any money
Oh, jeez.
because that's not the audience that was there
That's
for it.
true.
So, from a business standpoint, it's a lot of cosplay, and that's not the target audience for they're not looking for my product. So, I would
Well,
never
and
do it
he's
again.
not specifically saying that MechaCon is a horrible convention. What he's saying is that, like,
No, I know. I work
this,
with it, and when people have complaints, they never tell them. So I say, tell me about it, and I'll tell them what the complaints are.
Nah, it's good for the target audience that it has, but they should not be trying to pitch and get local artists and indie comic artists to set up there, because the crowd there, and I tell you this again because I spent 23 years working in advertising and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
The audience that goes there is not going there to look for the latest independent comics. They're looking for all the cosplay stuff and all the anime stuff, which is fine. So again, artists like me, artists like Fletch, we're not going to really sit up there. Robbie Musso is going to do well. Why? Because he works in the industry that they are looking for.
They are actually looking for anyone who does 3D rendering, because they're working on a huge project, and they need someone who can do ships and things like that.
And ain't me.
Not me.
Yeah.
So good luck with
But
that.
if you know anybody, steer them to the site, because they definitely need that.
Sure.
Okay, I'll keep an ear out.
Because this year is going to be a game changer, that they're going to release some big information about something huge they're changing. It's all top secrets for now, but like I said, they're looking for people who do 3D animation.
They're starting their own Mighty Morphin Power Rangers team.
As long as they're anatomically correct, that's all I want.
They're opening a Pokemon
Anatomically
gym.
correct. Oh, yeah.
By anatomically correct, you mean both girls have to have the skirt unitards, or what?
No, that they all have their genitals intact.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I want. So,
Where's the
So,
fun
no
in that?
Pikmin.
if the Green Ranger, he's got to, it's got to be like down to his knee at least.
Yeah,
That's
when
what
I
I'm saying.
went to MechaCon this past year, that was the only time I went. And yeah,
It's
the-
a fun
the
con. I
cosplay-
enjoyed
Right.
the convention
It's just-
Yeah.
attendance. But no, it's the same thing with Wizard World, and like I said, it's kind of going back to the business of it. Is
Wizard
that
World should be the target audience, though.
It
It's just
should be,
not.
but Wizard World is just they are a pop culture event. So
Money grab.
Yeah, money grab. So
I mean, it's essentially just a machine at this point. They don't really care what goes in and out of Wizard World.
all I know is when Wizard World came down to New Orleans and started setting up, they, I used to hear from them on a regular basis. Now I can't get what was her name? She's still on my phone.
Which one do you have? Because I'll show you the one I had. Because I had
I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
I had a straight nightmare time. They put up the wrong bio. They put up the wrong name. I was like, that's not the name I go by.
Yeah. Amina Jones, that's who used to call me a lot.
Hi,
And I've
Nina.
got one here for.
I know you're a listener.
Yeah. So Amina Jones.
Oh,
used to-
Amina. Oh, I have.
No, not
I had dealt with her.
Yeah. But they used to call me on a regular basis and help us promote the show, and used to do all these really cool stuff for the college students that they volunteer their time for and everything like that. And now they don't return the calls, so that's
Do you
a
have
machine.
business cards?
So what?
Do you have a business
Nah,
card?
I don't use business cards.
No?
Just don't use them. No one uses them. So yeah, it's and I respect it as a business, and that's what their business model is, and knock yourselves out. But I'm a business too, and so I'm just that's why I'm pitching the scripts in terms of trying to communicate to them in their language and understanding of how to get them to wrap their head around the intellectual property and how they can use it. Like the last guy was talking about, that he totally understood
How's it going?
the tagline that came with the script, and he was like, I totally understand the properties that you're referencing to.
Well, it
and
lays
you can
out
see it.
what's going on. I think it would lend itself very well to an animated series.
I think so too. Yeah,
A la Spawn, HBO.
And that's what I has been very clear about in the pitch in terms of it's got to be a cable comedy. It's got to be like FXX. It's got to run.
Netflix or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's got to run around, Always Sunny in Philadelphia or something like that, because that's that audience that's going to get that, and that it can be what it should be, and truer to the intellectual property itself. So, I miss retail. So in any case, so yeah, so it's I'm crafting it in terms of so that they can understand the language. So I don't have someone like we were talking about with the agent, and even the first producer that looked at it was that I don't want them to have that kind of Deadpool response of we don't know what to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really kind of having to map it out a little bit more.
Now that's interesting though, because I wonder if like now when you submit the pitch to people, if post Deadpool now because they are looking for more adult things.
Well, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because when Energy Entertainment, this guy Colin Scully, I think his name is, he was like, yeah, I want to take a look at it. This seems pretty good, and I'd actually changed the pitch to make the reference to the fourth wall narrative, because that's what the book has, is the fourth wall narrative. And I put, the fourth wall narrative in Deadpool, and that was a reference that I made in the description of it. So, again, to help them kind of understand and equate it to a successful property. So that's why I was dropping these comparisons, because the way I was taught, like when the first Alien movie came out, the tagline for it was, it's Jaws in space. And you got to have that kind of reference so that they can understand not only what it is that you're talking about, but you're equating it to a successful property.
Even if you don't get the whole big picture, it connects two things together, and you can be like, okay, I see exactly where this is going. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's relating it to a successful property that people can associate to. So now I've modified the pitch, because I have a pitch Bible, but the pitch Bible only comes in when you're trying to secure producers for the film, and then you're laying out all the characters, stuff like that. So I've actually modified my pitch so that now in the 2-page pitch, you got to list the tagline in 2 sentences, and then you got to have a synopsis of what the series is about, and then you have to kind of talk about the characters, and then give like a synopsis of the pilot script. And so now I've changed it so that by each character, the pitch that they will now see will have a drawing of the character. Because I agree with my wife in terms of that, something that, again, is going to kind of help them see what we're talking about, is that even if they haven't read the book, they can see the characters and they can see the look of the book.
Right.
That maybe that'll help kind of
Yeah,
tie it
I
all
guess
together for
at this
them.
point, you do kind of have to lead them by the hand when it
Yeah.
comes to anything that's not very simplistic.
And also, just it's not very popular. I mean, it's just,
Hello.
I mean, I'm
How you
popular
doing?
in my local markets, and people know me here, but nobody knows me outside of the state of Louisiana very, very much.
Tend to be quiet.
So, so yeah, they don't know, what Mathilda is, and I can tell them, it's based off of the graphic novel, but they're like, yeah, I don't know, I've never heard of it. That's why the agent was like, oh, can you send me a copy of the book? I'd like to see what the book is. So,
Well, I mean, M-Hog's obviously a quote-unquote metal show.
Yeah.
And definitely check out VoodooMaverick.com, Comixology, if you're in the New Orleans area, come and get it, because I feel like Mathilda is probably a pretty M-Hog comic.
it's aight, like Deadpool, kind of aight.
You want a print copy, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you just...
Oh, print
But
copies
again,
aren't
for the
going
people
anywhere.
who aren't near New Orleans, I'm just saying.
Well, if they,
Get hold of the book. If you can get in a comic shop, absolutely do. But if you can't, there's other avenues. Don't just give up hope.
yeah. So, I ship copies of the book as well, but I just prefer that people go to the shops and support the shops. So they're supporting me by having it. So if you can, contact the retailer and ask the local shop. They do shipping, or if you're not here, ask your local shop if they'll contact me and buy a copy, and I'll ship it to them, and they'll roll that cost off onto you.
Yeah, if your local comic shop is big into like supporting indie creators, like I'm talking like, your IDWs, your Dark Horses, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously smaller publishers, like they might be willing to check out Mathilda versus the Forces of the Third Grade.
Yeah. So, and synopsis and everything's on the website, and there's actually even free pages of the book on the website, so you can preview the book, and if you like it, then, you buy it. If not, then you just don't know how it ends, because I didn't put the last 8 pages on there for that purpose. So, support your indie guys.
All right, let's wrap up the M-Hog show, just because we get more and more people coming in, and obviously this is a comic book store, not a podcast studio. So hope y'all enjoyed it. And Ted, you're going to be back in April, I believe.
Yeah, that's the plan, and then that'll be a little more of your what you guys are used to with your M-Hog.
Yeah,
that we can
filthy
be a little
language.
less. Yeah, a little less filtered. We tried to
Right.
do our best, and
I actually like recording in a comic shop. It's
Yeah.
just that at some point when people start coming in, it's again this is a business. It's not my place to interrupt anything.
right,
So,
definitely.
but it does add a certain real element.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm supposed to be back on April, so I'm looking forward to that, and riffing with you guys then.
and all right, so Fletch Boogie's busy right now, so I guess keep it metal.
Yeah, keep your metal, guys.